Welcome to EVONA Origin Stories, the space podcast where we look to bring you extraordinary leaders from within the sector and their fascinating stories of early life, career, and how they broke into the space industry. Our guest today found their love of space whilst watching a programme which showed a clip of our planet from space. From this moment, she's worked to shift people's perspective on the challenges we're facing on a planetary scale and how space can play a key role in helping understand we're part of something much greater. She is a former radio host, a public speaker, and at present is executive director of a non-profit organisation which is cultivating this movement to expand access to space for all humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rachel Lyons. Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
If you're happy to, we'll just jump straight in.
Sure thing. I'm ready.
Amazing. So to get started, Rachel, it would be really good to start back from the early days. So talk us through where you started in life, where you grew up, school, college, and how you sort of found your way into your early career in Florida.
Absolutely. So I grew up in Connecticut in the United States and was very lucky to, be raised by two loving parents that they're still together today. And as a kid, you never really had an interest in space. I was always skilled in math and science, but didn't know where my career would go. I just knew that I wanted to do things that would, make it so that I could support myself and support a family if I ever wanted to have a family, and live like a life that I wanted to live. And so, what society told me the best way to do that was to go to college and study something that would turn into a fruitful job. And but still, there was just no real passion driving me. It was mostly just me following what I was good at, which was math and science. And I ended up at University of Miami in Florida, in the engineering school. And then when I was going into my junior year of college, I had a childhood friend basically I was sitting with him and he's like, I want to show you this documentary about space. And I was like, documentary about space? So why do I want to watch that? And he was like, no, let's just watch the beginning and we can turn it off if you don't like it. And so he turned on the first episode of Neil deGrasse Tyson's Cosmos, where Neil deGrasse Tyson shows the scale of the universe, so starting from the Earth to the solar system, to the Milky Way galaxy, to the local group of galaxies, and out and out and out and out. And I had what I would call an awakening experience. Like I saw this context of our existence, that we live on a planet floating in the infinite universe, and my life was never the same after that. Like suddenly I had this new gratitude for even existing, because I saw how much of a miracle it is to be here, and how special it is to even have life. And it made me suddenly I would say like an instant environmentalist in a way, because it gave me this new love for our planet as well, and an instant humanitarian. Like it gave me a newfound empathy for people. And it was watching that when I was 19 years old that it just made me obsessed with space, like obsessed with becoming interplanetary, obsessed with bringing this perspective to people. And that's when I switched into aerospace engineering, because I was like, okay, well, I'm already studying engineering. I want to build the rockets and the spaceships to make us interplanetary. And so I studied aerospace engineering, and it was soon after that I learned about Frank White's work, who's the person that coined the term overview effect. And I'll end my background with this. Basically, what the overview effect is it's the cognitive shift that happens to astronauts when they go to space, and they look back and they see our planet as an interconnected, floating ball of life in the universe. And astronauts come back down, completely change people with new perspectives around everything that's happening in our world, from the environment to politics to humanitarian issues to even just their place in their local communities. And I learned about that experience that happens to astronauts, and I realized that's kind of like a similar thing as what happened to me when I saw that first episode of Cosmos. And really, it's this perspective that's why I'm here. It's because it's like the impact that this perspective can have on people and have on the planet. So I've since dedicated my life to sharing this perspective, and that's led me to where I am today.
That's amazing. You know, that one moment has kind of shifted not just your personal perspective, but also then your studies and your career as well from that point. So what came next for you then? You found that passion and love for space. Then yeah, what sort of came next in terms of the career path from there?
Yeah, so like I said, I became absolutely obsessed with space. Like little weird, I would even say. A little weird how obsessed I got. And so I joined like all the clubs I could, you know, like Students for the Exploration and Development of Space and the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and you know, like helping plan space parties, and like my very first meeting, like running for a board position for these clubs and not getting it, but you know, that's just how much I wanted it. And yeah, and so it was like I was lucky enough to be able to go to some conferences, meet more space people, meet more space leaders, and then I interned. I took a really non-traditional route, you know, like I was studying aerospace engineering and didn't have any aerospace engineering internships. And I was really concerned. I was like, how am I going to have a career in space if I'm not getting any of the internships? And I would say like it was kind of hard to switch into aerospace engineering. Is like the most it's very related to mechanical, like especially like at University of Miami, aerospace and mechanical are the same two tracks. And so a lot of the people in these classes were people who had kind of like, you know, been tinkerers their whole life, or had an interest in building things their whole life. You know, it's like the machine shop is the place that they thrive. And for me, it was just not ever like that. You know, like I enjoyed aerodynamics. I enjoyed learning about some of the things. And it was not something that like it wasn't a passion area in the way that it was for other people. So I was really lucky to make some industry connections that became really meaningful for me, and led me to being in the audience at New Space 2017, which is the conference, when the founder of Space for Humanity spoke and announced Space for Humanity. And his name is Dylan Taylor, and at the time he was an active space investor and running a big, you know, Fortune 1000 real estate company. And he went up there and he announced Space for Humanity's mission, which is to sponsor people from all over the world, regular people, to go to space so that they can have that overview effect experience and then come back down and be planted like seeds around the world to go and share this perspective far and wide as a way to solve our most intractable challenges. He talked about how, you know, this mission it's founded with the premise that space is a tool for transformation, and that as Albert Einstein said, we can't solve the problems we've created with the same level of thinking that created them. And I instantly fell in love with the mission and came on as a volunteer a few months later, and my role grew, and I started as executive director in 2019, and I've learned so much since then. It's been like my biggest teacher has been being the executive director of this organization. But I can't think of a more important place for me to be putting my energy. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
Absolutely, you know, that's a great story, and as you said, you know, it's a different route into the space industry, which is great. You know, that's part of this podcast, and also, you know, the message that we like to give is, you know, to raise that curtain on the space sector. And there's, you know, doesn't have to be that traditional route that people look at. You know, there's other avenues to get into space. And so in terms of Space for Humanity, so we'd love to touch on what Space for Humanity are doing for global access to civilians. At EVONA, we're all passionate STEM ambassadors, and we share that same message for making space accessible for everybody. Can you tell us a little bit more about Space Humanity, and also talk us through what it's like doing what you do?
Totally, yeah. So as I mentioned, we're sponsoring people from all over the world to go to space commercially. So we are vehicle agnostic. So we could be flying, as of right now, we're working on we have partnerships with the stratospheric balloon companies. So that's Worldview and Space Perspective, and we're also talking closely with Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic for the suborbital spaceflight rides. And yeah, we've actually had 7,000 people from more than 100 countries and nations apply to our program.
Wow.
We just closed our applications in mid-February, so we're in mid-March now, so that was actually just about a month ago. And you know, this is like the team and myself are in awe by the range of applications that we've received. You know, it's like a Mongolian astronomer, and you know, a paraplegic and former skydive instructor, and you know, someone who's created a cross-cultural exchange program from Morocco, and you know, someone who started a Mars exploration club in Kenya, and like, you know, someone who worked on the grounds in Myanmar. Like, just a ridiculous range of people that are so purpose-driven and so impact-oriented and committed to using this experience as a way to create greater change. And we plan to fly a full cohort of people. So depending on the flight provider, depending on the amount of seats that they have, that would be 6 to 8 people. And we believe, you know, Dylan, our founder, he just went to space in December with Blue Origin, and he talks about crew glue and how crew glue, like the bond that you have with your crewmates, it's a thing, and it's a lifelong thing. Like he says, it's been 3 months now, and he's still talking to his crewmates on almost a daily basis. And so we believe that it's a really important way for us to help these people go and facilitate greater change, is like to be with a cohort of people that are all up to important things. And so we also have a training program where we're working with researchers around how to psychologically prepare people for this experience. So we're doing some psychological preparation. Then they'll go to space. They'll have that transformative experience of the overview effect, and then we'll support them in their integration of it. So what I mean by that is, you know, with any transformative experience, you know, you can have a transformative experience going abroad, spending time in other cultures, hiking a mountain and having a beautiful view. But with all of these experiences, you know, I mean, I'm sure people listening, I'm sure maybe they've gone abroad before, and you know, a lot of people have the experience of going back, you kind of feel like a fish out of water, and it can be hard to make sense of life as it was before, because it's simply not the same. Yeah. And so we'll support people in really being able, like, making sense of it and bringing it back down to their lives and like, you know, it's like letting themselves be changed in their new lives. And then each of them will have their own social impact program that they implement upon their return as well, and with a year-long commitment to going and sharing this perspective, using it as a way to address a global challenge that they care about, whether it's poverty or access to education or clean water or climate change, but just one of those intractable global challenges, or seemingly intractable global challenges, because as I said before, in order to address them, we must look at them from the perspective that they're happening on. And we believe that this perspective is the most important thing that we can take on right now as a civilization to ensure a promising future for humanity, both on and off the planet. So that's why these people will be, you know, it's like it starts with them, and then they go and create ripples with it. And it's my hope that though the commitment with us is only a year, they'll be doing this for the rest of their lives, because they will be forever changed by this experience.
Absolutely. I think, you know, that's such an amazing vision. And experience for those people that are going to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned sort of social media there as well, which sort of touches on my next question, which is around kind of failures and achievements. With various social media platforms, people always see the sort of highlight reel of successes and achievements and that end product, but they don't see the work and the grind and the sort of sacrifices leading up to that point. So what would you say has been your biggest failure, and what did you learn from that?
Wow, that's a really good question. I will say that I've learned so much on the job. I've gotten so messy on the job, and it's like those messes are what's led me to where I am today. I think that in terms of biggest failure, it's hard to say. I don't know if I consider any of my personal history, like I don't know if I consider any of it a failure. Like for me, it's all like, it's more like a learning opportunity. And I think a really big thing that I learned in my leadership is I would there's so much. I mean, like, there was one time on stage that I was so nervous. Like this was, it was like 2 years ago. I was so nervous speaking on stage at a conference that I like thought I was gonna have an anxiety attack. And like now I know how to prepare myself and how to like feel comfortable on stage, that like that's just not going to happen anymore. But that was one thing that not a memory I enjoy looking back on. But I would say a really big learning for me has been around personnel and how important it is to have people doing things that they love and doing things that they enjoy doing. And a really big learning that I had was, and this has been something that's happened multiple times, but it's like we needed a certain position filled. We had someone who was on the team and willing to do it, but didn't necessarily like that kind of work or have the skills for that kind of work. And putting in someone that's the wrong fit for a role, I would say that it's not good for them, and it's not good for the organization. And so it's really unfortunate because it's so important to take care of your people and to support them. And so I would just say that, like, that's a really big learning that I had, is like having the right people in the right roles will forward your mission in really big ways. And if you don't have that, it will weigh it down in ways that could take months to clean up.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think you mentioned earlier, there was academically, you were great at some things, but perhaps it wasn't what you were passionate about, and following your passion led you to where you are now.
Exactly.
On the other side of it, so what would you consider so far your greatest achievement career to date?
Oh, that's also a great question. I mean, I feel so proud. Like I feel so proud of what Space for Humanity's built. And it's not just me, I would say, like, it's like I've had an incredible team by my side, just an incredible group of people that care about this mission just as deeply as I do, an incredible group of advisors and board of director members and, partners that all are like with us in this. And that's what's led to these great achievements. So I can never take that much credit for it. But what I can say, I think one of my proudest moments, I would say probably the proudest moment that I've had is Space for Humanity was selected as the beneficiary of a campaign where Richard Branson went to space in last July of 2021. And then he came back down and he said, I want to give this opportunity to anyone. So anyone can pay $10 to enter to win a pair of tickets to go to space, and with Virgin Galactic, and Space for Humanity is the beneficiary of this campaign. And so throughout that, 160,000 people from all over the world gave $10 to enter to win this, and it ended up bringing in about $1.7 million to support Space for Humanity's mission. And then just to make it even better, we randomly selected from those 160,000 people a woman from Antigua to go to space. So I got to travel to the Caribbean. I'm to show up at this woman's house. Her name's Keisha, alongside Richard Branson and the CEO of Omaze, which is the company that facilitated it. And we got to surprise her, show up at her door, and tell her that she had won 2 tickets to go to space. And I think I was probably the most emotional one there. Like, I was so excited about it. And I was like still, I'm like, I just can't even believe that happened, you know, like. And the crazy thing is that we haven't even selected our first crew yet. We're planning to select our first crew in the next 6 months. And you know, so we just got to do that this one time, and we are so excited to be able to offer this to more and more people. And so I feel so proud, you know, for the support that it brought in for Space for Humanity, for the amount of people that now are aware of our mission because of this really powerful partnership. And then also because I got to show up alongside Richard Branson to give this woman an experience of her dreams.
Yeah, I've actually seen that video online, and yeah, it's incredible. You can just feel the passion and the excitement from everybody. So if any of our listeners haven't seen it, have a watch, because it's super exciting and definitely an amazing mission for somebody to be part of. So
totally.
And I think you're being very humble there, because Space for Humanity are doing some incredible work that you're leading. So we've been following you guys.
Thank you.
So what's next? I mean, what are the plans for Space for Humanity? And where do you want the company to be in the next 5 years?
It's a really good question. So right now we're really focused on, you know, we're in a growth point as an organization. I've learned a lot about building teams and running teams, and, you know, the kind of devotion that's required to fulfill on this mission. And we're still a small and agile team. You know, we're under 10 people, and so I don't see that changing much. I don't think that we're going to expand too much more than where we are right now. But I think what's next is really like we consider ourselves a global movement. And so we'll continue being that. So it's like, for me, the ultimate goal is that everyone on this planet actually knows and understands that we live on a planet, and they know what that means, which is that it is interconnected, it is fragile, it is finite. As humans, our commonalities are far greater than our differences. And this, we need to it's not just about knowing this, it's about being it, it's about acting it, and it's about, you know, people all over the world are like embodying this. So that's my ultimate goal. The way that we're doing that is by sending people to space. We'll send 1 full cohort to space per year. So our first crew, I think we'll be flying by the end of 2023. So we're really excited about that. And until then, you know, we're building out our training program. We're currently working on our selection process. So we luckily have an incredible HR selection expert that she's focused her studies around inclusive hiring and selection processes. And so that is applicable to the selection process. So that's really, really good for us and for, you know, the 7,000 people who have applied to this. And we're just excited to create a framework that is repeatable on a year-to-year basis. And over the next 5 years, send at least 1 full crew a year, and then ramp up as the years move forward.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, amazing vision. In terms of the applications, you mentioned, I think, that the applications closed in February. Do you have plans to sort of release a new selection of applications?
Yep, exactly. So we'll plan to basically reopen every year. So if someone does not get selected for the first round, but they're really committed to the mission, and, you know, they can reapply. I mean, it's like with NASA, one of our advisors, his name's Jose Hernandez. He said he applied to NASA 11 times. Wow. And then he was selected for the 12th to be an astronaut. So, you know, like with 7,000 people on this list, there's so many amazing people on there. So yeah, we will be definitely reopening in future years. especially once like a cadence begins with these flights.
Fantastic. So don't give up applying.
Don't give up. We want you. We want to hear from you.
With that then, so in terms of giving advice, what would you say has been the best and the worst advice that you've sort of been given over the years?
The best and the worst. That's amazing. Okay, well, I'll say the worst advice. I'm thinking I don't know if I've ever been given like bad advice. Because I think all advice, typically, I mean, if you're discerning about who's giving you advice, all advice is coming from a well-intended place. But I would say like the biggest thing I've learned in the receiving of advice is just because you're getting the advice doesn't mean that you have to do it. And sometimes it's actually better to just say, okay, thank you so much for your advice. Like, I get that this person really cares, and like that's information that I will take in, and now I will decide what I'm going to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's like just that. I would say that's the biggest thing is like I can't tell you like a one sentence piece of advice that was bad that I was given, but I can tell you, well, what didn't work was when I've like in the past, there's been times that I have like 8 different people giving me advice about something, and then it's like I'm pulled in all these different directions and I don't know where to go because I wasn't making decisions from like fully from a place of trusting myself. And so I would just say, like, when it comes to any advice, take it all with a grain of salt, no matter who it is, no matter what the position of power that they're in is. And then like it's all about creating a relationship with yourself where you trust your own choices. So it's all like, you know, if you need advice, great, take it. And it's awesome if there is someone who you trust wholeheartedly that you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to listen to what they say in this situation. But ultimately, it's all about you making decisions for yourself. And so that's been a thing that I've learned over the past few years. And then for best advice, I think probably the best advice is one that I've gotten from the founder of Space for Humanity, and he's just said you're going to make mistakes, and like you and that's okay, and you get to learn from those mistakes. That was also like the kind of the thing is like when I was like trying to get advice from people all the time, I was afraid to make mistakes. And so I would it was like listening to what other people would say is a way for me to like avoid making my own mistakes. And so it's like finding a balance of, you know, really like fearlessly trusting yourself and also like, you know, welcoming in mistakes as they come. Like things just get messy sometimes. And I've learned every time and on a month-to-month basis, you know, there's new problems come because I've solved the problems from the past. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. I think follow your instincts and don't be afraid to make mistakes and then learn from that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you mentioned earlier on around when you sort of found that passion for space and you signed up to courses and you really kind of threw yourself into that. I mean, what would you say was the best resources you've identified and utilized over the years? So whether that's the courses, programs, mentors that you feel have sort of helped and guide you the most?
Well, I would say that for me, just throwing myself into the industry was the best thing. So if you're a young person, you know, that's SEDS, Students for the Exploration and Development of Space. That's a student-run organization. It's also SGAC, the Space Generation Advisory Council, which is for like students and young professionals ages 18 to 34, and that's a global organization as well. And so going to those and then just seeing like who you resonate with, like what messages, what missions do you resonate with, and like don't be afraid to just like put yourself in front of the people that are saying the things that you agree with and saying the things that make you come alive. Like I think that's the way that you can create a career for yourself that you love. And then I would also say that for me, personal growth, like doing the internal work to be able to like, learn about myself enough and trust myself enough to be able to fully show up as a leader and fully be able to like show up doing the work that I want to do. That's been just as meaningful as like putting myself in the right places in the space industry. It's like, we humans, like we're human. We have a lot of fears. There's a lot of things that can stop us from getting what we want that's internal as well. And so being willing to get support when needed, like do transformational learning programs, get coaching, like, get support for myself to rise as a leader. That's been like one of the most powerful things for my life. And it's impacted me more than just in my work, but also in my personal life as well. And in like my relationship with myself.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And, using yourself as a resource and there's lots of podcasts and books out there that can help with that as well. So yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And this is the way we always sort of like to end the show, and it's sort of a final sort of question. What advice would you have for anybody looking to enter the space sector? Perhaps they some don't have an engineering degree, they're passionate about space, but they're not quite sure how to get into the industry. What advice would you have?
I would say it depends, like what are you passionate? I'm curious first. I want to know more about this person. I'm like, are you a student? Are you a young professional? Are you switching careers? Like, what are you interested in? What specifically about space excites you? I'm like, get clear on all of those things. Get clear on like really what it is that you want to do. Like for me, it was the overview effect, and so that led me to all the people that are bringing the overview effect to the world and all of that. So I would just say like get clear on like what it is that really excites you, and if you don't know yet, then keep learning so that you can get clear on it. And then luckily we're at this time now where there's so much online. And so, even if say you don't have access to travel, there's so much online that you can get involved with right now. And then that might even like show you what events you should be at that you should travel. But I would say like, if you go to a conference, talk to the speaker that inspires you. If you are on a virtual chat room and there's someone on there that you're really interested in, like send them a message, just like go out of your way to make yourself known, like ask questions. Like just don't be afraid to like put yourself there. And I like the space industry, the space sector is not, I think a lot of people are like, think that it's really hard to get into, but the reality is that there's so many jobs. Like the space sector like right now, commercial space is expanding so quickly. I know so many companies that are hiring, and like there's a lot of ways to get in. So I would just say like keep pushing and trying and make yourself known by the people that you would like to know you. And I think like I can promise that something will come of it.
Yeah, amazing advice. I think, as you said, put yourself out there, have conversations, join forums, get involved with events and conferences, and find out what you're passionate about.
Exactly.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much for speaking with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun.
That sort of ties up the show. So thank you very much. And we'll hopefully speak to you soon and be keeping a close eye on Space for Humanity and all the good work you guys are doing.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time and your thoughtful questions. And let me know if there's any way that I can support your work as well.
Amazing. Thanks very much, Rachel.
Okay. Bye.
Take care. Bye.